Yep.
I just saw her. Here's the microphone.
I even went up to the wall. I went upstairs into the locked closet, and I looked in the locked closet. No, you can go. Everybody grab it.
You know, it's so nice to see everyone, so nice to have his family here. And we love Brian very much. And as you can see from all of the kids that are here and all of the teachers that are here and co-workers. So I'm going to turn it over to her before I start crying. Yeah.
First of all, welcome. I want to thank the principal, Mr. Deegan, and the vice principal over here, Mrs. McGuire over here, for opening up the Colonial Room. And I just have a little story, and then I'm going to introduce Emily, who was a student, and then we had another student who wanted to reach out to Chef Mac's family, even though she couldn't be here today. So the story goes, I wasn't a student of Chef Mac, unless you count my freshman exploratory, which was one heck of a ride with him. After hearing of his death and seeing how much he meant to my mom and my family, I needed to do something. I then read all the kind posts on Facebook and saw he meant a lot to so many. My mother was one of his first students in 1986. She was a senior. Sorry, I get emotional. It's a really good story. She loved Chef Mac, and she felt comfortable telling him that she was pregnant. She was alone and afraid, being shy about people finding out that she was a senior and being pregnant. Now, we all know Chef Mac and how he really responded to people. But nicely, Chef Mac told her not to care what others thought of her and took her under his wings. He started to teach my mother about healthy eating, forcing whole milk on her, and even got her addicted to frog legs, which is gross. So, anyways, he became a father figure to all of her and all of us. So he became a father figure all the way through her pregnancy. Then in delivery, my mom suffered a brain aneurysm and almost passed away. She almost didn't graduate, but she did. Chef Mac showed up to the hospital for visits, and he held me as a baby. Again, he took her under his wings and made sure that she was always cared for, nutritioned, and I was a healthy baby. He was always a father figure to my mom, and I could never repay him for that. We ended up having 7 family members pass through Southeastern Regional, including me, with the last one graduating when he retired. So when I attended in 2005, he met me again, and I always came to visit him at open house, and he always referred to me as, "You're my SET little 87 baby." I had the funniest memories being in culinary for exploratory. I know how to taste mashed potatoes, how to measure the salt, but with my finger testing. So who needs a recipe, he used to tell me. I came back every year just to see Chef McDonald at open house. I just want everyone to know, family, friends, past students, co-workers, that he was a great man, and even though the shop will never be the same, he will always fill these hallways with love, and you can always find his spirit in the culinary room. And to honor him today, please live your life to the fullest. Have fun while doing it. Don't be scared to fail. Get back up and be one hot ticket.
Emily. I'm not very good at this speaking thing, but so I was a student of Chef Mac's from 2011 to 2014. I didn't graduate from Southeastern, but I do remember the amazing times I had with him. Okay, I'm gonna try. So I remember this day like it was yesterday. It was a normal Wednesday night at home for my parents and I, with my mom and dad in the living room downstairs watching TV. I was 16 and I was in my room doing whatever I used to do. Now, you may be thinking that it was pretty normal for a 16-year-old to be alone in their room, but for me, it was the worst situation. Suffering from severe anxiety and depression, I was confiding in a good friend about how I was about to kill myself. What seemed like hours later, my phone rang, and an angel's voice came over the phone. It was Chef Mac, his frantic voice telling me to go downstairs or to give him my home phone number so he could call my parents. To this day, I can still hear his sharp tone and his frantic breaths. I had no idea one of the most important people in my life would actually be the one to save it. Now you may be wondering why I'm telling this story. We said goodbye to an incredible human being. Not only was Chef a great husband, father, or uncle, but he was an amazing teacher, co-worker, and just outright man. No matter who you were in his life, Chef Mac always found a way to be there. If he knew you or not, he would make sure you had everything you needed and that you had a smile on your face. Today, let us not dwell on the fact he's gone, but let us remember the good times and happy life he had. That hot ticket definitely had a good way of making us laugh, smile, and sometimes roll our eyes. I hope today and for the rest of their lives, Chef's family not grieves for his death, but remembers the smiles he put on everyone's faces and never forgets the joy he brought to many people.
Another student named Kayla was unable to attend, and she asked me to read off her story, and we have agreed to read it. So she wrote, "Before I have Ashley read this to apologize that I cannot be here today, I need to express how truly Chef McDonald was. Chef Mac was more than just my teacher. He was one of the very few people that believed in me. He pushed me and kept me going when I didn't think I could. Not many people know this, but I grew up in foster care.
Read my speech.
And I'm Karen McGuire, and I worked with Brian for close to 20 years here in the kitchen, and then I moved into administration and still work with him. He's one of my best friends. So Brian and I had a great work relationship, but we had an even better friendship. Brian would be over at my house on Sundays, would have lunch, we would have dinner, would watch the Patriots together, and at one point, I don't remember how many years ago it was. It had to be 10 years ago, right? Would you say 10 years ago, the captain? And the Patriots were down, and we were like, "Oh, this is it. They're gonna lose." And he's like, "Nope, shh."
I remember that one.
And he got up in the kitchen, and he went like this. And then he got my father, that you all know as Grump, to do this. And my dad's a pretty tall guy. And so now the two of them, my father and Brian, are in the back of the kitchen like this, and they nicknamed it the Captain. So the Captain, after Captain Morgan, naturally, the Captain continued on, and still to this day, the Captain is what we do during all of the Patriots games. Our whole family does it. I'm sure his family does it. Like the Captain. I have text after text after text from him. Do the Captain. Do the Captain. And I'm like, oh dear God, I'm somewhere it'd be like, doesn't matter, just do the Captain. I'm like, oh Brian, yeah. So that was his thing. Brian was a wonderful friend. He stuck up for us, you know. He loved us, and he lived his life with his heart on his sleeve, and you know, I'm gonna miss him an awful lot.
My daughter, regarding the captain, I knew Karen always would talk about her as a police officer in the school, and somebody would get in a little bit of trouble, and they relied on the police to go up and get them. Well, he had me in the back of the room there, up on one leg like this. Now that's after like 9 sarsaparillas. I'm trying to say to myself, you know, is this like one of those cops?
I was trying to check you for your sobriety.
And I said, I'll be damned, I'm going to outlast him. I was having a hard time, so I kind of bumped into him a little bit, and he went down. God bless him.
Yeah, he did.
He did me there the first time I met him. He came in, and he had this box of Dunkin' Donuts things. And
Munchkins.
He looked at me, and how he goes like that.
Yeah.
And he says, "Who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm Karen's father." He says, "Oh, want a munchkin?" I said, I don't eat that stuff. That's terrible for you." He said, "Oh, okay." God bless him.
Yeah.
And we have on the balloon here that my wife wrote.
It's a different, yeah.
The other one, wherever he is, he'll be doing that captain.
Probably doing it
And I
right now.
hope it's not because of where he is that he has to get up on one leg.
So,
Sorry for interrupting.
no, you always have the floor, Grump, always. As you know, Chef Max started here in '86. It was actually the year after I graduated. My chef, one of them, had passed away my senior year, and my other one retired, Mr. Nystrom. And then in came Chef Mac, and my sister was one of my underclassmen, so she had him in her junior year and her senior year. So I would hear all of these stories about this new chef, and then my sister-in-law had him years down the line. So when I decided to become a teacher, I used to take professional development days and come down here and visit him and Mr. Deegan. And I'd leave here with piles of paper and take them up to Maine because I had never been a teacher before, and I would just sort it all out. And it was just piles and piles of stuff, and I'm like, okay, I guess it's stuff that I can use, and I just kind of would build my curriculum from there, thanks to him. And then anytime, anything you need, kid, anything you need, I'm always here for you. So that was like at the beginning of our relationship. And then when I interviewed for my job here at Southeastern, they had never had a female chef. So the superintendent at the time didn't seem to want one. So him and Mr. Deegan were like, and Mr. Duffy were like, we're fighting for you, kid, we're fighting for you, and we'll go to the school committee if we have to. You're the one that we want. So then I was fortunate enough to work with him. So he fought for me, and then once we became partners, we fought. And if any of you and all of you that were my graduates, you knew, because I am very strict and disciplined, and Chef Mac was always the nurturer. Just give the kid a cookie. Oh, they need to get on the dish machine. He would fire you all the time, and then you'd come running back to me so that I could get you out of trouble with him. And then Karen came along like the year after I started, and she was always the funny one. So you have the funny one, the strict one, and the nurturer. So I believe at that time, along with Mrs. Fox, who would lecture, she'd tell you all how it was going to be in life, and I think we were a really good combination together. So for those of you that weren't here, like towards the last years of us working together, or were just there for our feisty little fights, we became really good friends. My last 4 or 5 years here, when I lost my dad and other things that happened in my life, Brian was the one who would pick me up when I would come to work every day. And he'd say, kid, you're the best teacher. Like, just don't let him get you down. And, you know, no matter what, I always knew that he would have my back, and I always tried to make sure towards the end when he wasn't feeling well at all. And anyone who was here those last couple of years, he was in his office a lot of the time not feeling well. He needed his oxygen. He had Brianitis, that's what we called it, because we couldn't explain to the kids that he had so many things going on, so we just called it Brianitis, because we'd like, he's out with Brianitis. Karen and I came up with that one together. And I was able to help carry him along, just like he did for me in the beginning. So I think everything comes full circle in life, and that's where we ended up. When I decided to leave was the year that he was retiring, so he said, we go out together, kid. So we did, we went out together. And I remember being at graduation, and I hadn't decided fully if I was leaving, and he was talking about how I was retiring with him, and some school committee members were like in the same row. And I know that the principal at the time's girlfriend heard it, and then the principal was like, McGuire, is Maynard leaving? And I was like, Max, shh, shh. Like, we haven't fully disclosed it.
His Irish whisper.
Yeah. So everyone in the row is like looking at me, and I'm like, shh, like, we're at graduation, we're not supposed to be talking. Like, nobody knows, and I don't even know if I'm leaving yet. So, you know, there's so many memories of things. I still use 4-4-2 every day. Actually, when I taught my freshmen last week, that's how I taught them how to make their sauces. And
the 6 mother sauces. There were only 5.
Yeah.
But Brian invented one.
Brian did make up one. So whenever I would teach sauces, I would teach them the 5 mother sauces as Beth B. And Brian always added a 6th mother sauce, which was demi-glace. So he would teach them the other Beth
He would call it Beth VD.
And I'd be like, okay, chef. So there are 6 mother sauces. I'll start teaching that. Maybe not. There's still 5. There's still going to be 5 mother sauces, but that was one of our deals that we always did. Obviously, he fired kids left and right to the dishwasher, and he'd explain to them why they were fired, and he would fight no matter what was going on with that kid, no matter what learning disability. If they didn't do their job, he would be like, they're fired. And if they needed him, no matter what it was, he was there for them. He did more for kids that they had no idea. He never wanted to be recognized. He would shove me money. Hey, go buy this kid's shoes. go do this for me over the weekend. Always shoving 20s at me. I'd run, get the stuff, give it back to him, or just kind of sneak it to the kid, and they'd go, where'd it come from? And I'd go, I don't know. I just found those shoes. And they'd be like, Chef Mac? And I'm like, none of my business. You know, so, and that's just how he was. And I know that he's taught life lessons to all of us, especially his graduates. I've heard from so many of you, and so many tears over the last couple weeks, and so many memories, to the point where I still teach at the Technical Institute here, and the other night I was making apple pies, and his rolling pin was over there with his name on it. And one of our last arguments in our years was the kids used to go over and steal his rolling pins. And they all had his name on it. And he's like, I'm short a rolling pin. And I'm like, I don't have your rolling pin. And sure enough, his rolling pin was on my shelf. So obviously, that was my rolling pin. And I was like, so he'd leave and I'd go, I told you guys not to touch his rolling pins. Don't make him come over here yelling at me about those rolling pins. So his name's, as I walked through that shop, his name's on everything that was his. It's all in different kitchens, and he wouldn't like that part right now, but I see his name all the time as I walk through there, and brings back a ton of memories for us. We had some good days together. We did. Good times.